Kelvin, I talked about the early history of the college, the founding of the Augusta Theological Institute in the name of the college for Henry on Morehouse. Then we had a very excellent panel on activism in college, featuring Dr. Stephanie Dunn, Ms. Nasir Mohammed, and Mr. Trenton Bailey. And then we had a wonderful presentation by our illustrious graduate class of 1954, Dr. Louis Wade Sullivan, which just ended. And now we have a very interesting panel in many respects in that it features both faculty and students. And if you have your program, you see the topics that they will cover. Mr. Simpkins will cover cultural assassination. Morehouse's enduring battle with black homosexuality. Mr. Ford will talk about the Morehouse Navy, a history of the NROTC and the Midshipmen of the college. And Dr. Spruill will bring it home with something very current, remembering election night, Morehouse students, and the Obama victories. Without further delay, Mr. Simpkins.
Good afternoon. Is this y'all hear me? All right. Good work. All right, can you guys hear me now? Is that better? Okay, good. Good afternoon. As Dr. Barksdale stated, my name is Antwann Simpkins. I'm an African-American Studies major history minor here at Morehouse College, and I am a junior. And the topic which I will be covering is a cultural assassination, Morehouse's enduring battle with black homosexuality. And I read in character, so I hope you guys enjoy this research as much as I did. Thank you for coming. Work, fears, beat, in the all-affirming yes, accompanied by a snap. These words aren't just random words. They are representative of an expansive and ever-growing lexicon used by a rising subculture of Morehouse College. Over its nearly 150 years of existence, Morehouse has welcomed several sons into its gates. But what is taking place beyond her gates among this subculture group have left many wondering, when and where do I enter? In an interview conducted with the Morehouse College 150-year oral project, an alumnus of the college disclosed that he was active on the Student Conduct Council, a council which recommended the punishment that should be given to students in the event that there was a violation of the conduct code. In his serving on the council, he recalled that students who were thought to be and or confirmed to be homosexual were to be under the direction of administration recommended for suspension or expulsion from the college. The alumnus was from the class of 1933. This undertone of homophobia would remain present throughout the history of Morehouse College. While many point to the school's Baptist roots as the basis for discrimination, several other points to alumnus of the college point to administrative apathy, alumnus of the college, and requirements that may or may not be attached to gift giving to the college from various organizations. Whatever the cause may be, what is clear is that Morehouse has homosexual sons who have had to negotiate their existence in order to fit into an atmosphere that is largely guided by black heteronormative ideals paired with hypermasculinity. In Traps, a 2001 anthology edited by Dr. Rudolph Bird and Dr. Beverly Guy Sheftal, the mission statement for Morehouse College's organization, Black Men for the Eradication of Sexism, was published. The following quote from the organization is imperative in understanding Morehouse's struggle with black male homosexuality. It goes as follows. We believe that although we are oppressed because of our color, we are privileged because of our sex, and must therefore take responsibility for ending that privilege. We live in a society that, along with being racist, classist, homophobic, and capitalist, is also fundamentally sexist. Just as well as whites socialized in a white society will be racist, so too will all men socialized in a sexist society be sexist. The fact that we are black does not make us immune. Black Men for the Eradication of Sexism spoke of the spaces in which they found themselves, not only in society as a whole, but specifically in Morehouse College. However, Morehouse's homophobic and sexist environment was not a new phenomenon in 1994. In interviews conducted with Morehouse men of the late 60s to the early 90s, confirmed that the atmosphere of Morehouse was not supportive of students who were same-gender loving. Interestingly, within these same interviews, these Morehouse men confirmed that there were students who were same-gender loving present. However, their voices and identities were not openly welcomed within the hollow halls of Morehouse College. The Morehouse men interviewed for this time period recalled that the same gender-loving community of Morehouse identified one another by dress code or by coded language. During this same time frame of the 80s, an alumnus of the college recalled a program where Asqua Kwesi, an Afrocentrist, and please excuse me if I mispronounce that, was invited to speak. Kwesi's remarks not only disregarded Greeks, but also made pejorative remarks regarding homosexuality. Kwesi's ending stance was that Greeks were faggots. The alumnus recalled being shocked. He then went on to state that there would be no correction made from the administration of Morehouse. During the late 80s to the mid-90s, an alumnus of the college recalls rumors of homosexuality and or association with a student known to be homosexual was equal to committing social suicide. According to the account of the former student, the gay world of Morehouse was largely closeted in a separate world. There was no affirmation of students who were same-gender loving in social spaces, but rather obvious presence of aversion. In this Morehouse atmosphere of the mid-90s, black men for the eradication of sexism would form and pen a moving mission statement that spoke toward the eradication of sexism, classism, and homophobia. This mission statement, penned in 1994, which I previously read, made way for Morehouse's first gay organization, Adodai. The story of Adodai has been eliminated from Morehouse's Maroon Tiger kept records. In researching through the archives of the Maroon Tiger, the article that was rumored to exist was not present. However, what was known was the author of the article, who was contacted and was more than happy to provide a copy of the mysteriously missing Adodai article. The article reads as follows. It was well on its way toward becoming Morehouse's first chartered gay student group. With the recent approval of the College Committee for Campus Organizations, all it needed was to garner 2/3 of the votes at the next Senate meeting. Adodai received none. At the October 26th Student Senate meeting, the 48 organizations represented voted unanimously to deny Adodai, a proposed support group for gays, its charter. Morehouse is a Southern Black Baptist all-male school, and this club goes against our very Baptist tradition, our very morality, said Robert, senator for the Political Science Club. Our senators expressed similar sentiments. Most said the concept of Adodai was antithetical to the image of Morehouse, and that they based their decision on the fact that such a group would not sit well with the students. If the organization is approved, nobody is ready for the reaction of the student body, said Shaka Scott, representative for the International Student Organization. Neither the administration nor SGA will be able to control the type of chaos that will result. But for Kieran Williams, the organizer of the club, the Senate decision was just a small defeat. When asked what he intended to do next, Williams responded, "I will contact the media. I will also enlist the support of the various gay organizations in the metro Atlanta and the country. Yes, I think Adodai is that important." The senior English major believes that what he plans to do is justified given the intense homophobia and discrimination that exists at Morehouse. There is a large homosexual population. There always has been, Williams said, and it makes no sense for Morehouse to keep refusing to acknowledge it because they think the integrity of the college will be compromised. And I won't read the remainder of the article for the sake of time, but you can see me afterwards if you would like a copy. Following Williams' rebuttal, the Senate moved to discontinue discussion. And on the vote of the issue, with a 48-0 outcome, the charter of Adodai was denied. This long-forgotten story of Adodai presents many thoughts for consideration about Morehouse's historic mission for speaking for the voiceless. As time moved on, Morehouse would resume its silent but dangerous stance against homosexuality. However, Morehouse would have to face its troubles with homosexuality yet again. On November 3rd, 2002, Aaron Price was taking a shower in one of the residence halls. Gregory Love, a dormitory mate of Aaron, also was in the showering area of the residence hall. After both admitted that they exchanged glances at one another, Love recalls what happened next. He quickly became enraged and began yelling and screaming that I was gay and that he hates Morehouse College because of all these fags. And he ripped the shower curtain down. He pulled me out of the shower and continued bashing my head in, and I will add, with a metal baseball bat. Love suffered a fractured skull. After this incident, a faculty member recalled suggesting to administration that they bring someone in to address the student body on the various issues of homosexuality. According to the faculty member, the school declined and said it would be handled. Morehouse's response was that Price was expelled in silence, which did not go over well with several students. A number of students said the school had not done enough to encourage tolerance on the campus or address homophobia among students. As this incident, another organization was getting its start, Safe Space. Safe Space was the same gender-loving students' response to the shower incident due to the institution's failing to take action. In its initial phases, Safe Space was a self-help organization that was small and isolated. The purpose of the secluded organization was to provide a place of affirmation for students who were same-gender loving. The students would be supported by faculty, but chartering issues would exist with Safe Space as well. However, they were eventually chartered. In spite of this, this organization would maintain a relatively low state of visibility on campus until the Vibe magazine that would shock the world released an article entitled "The Mean Girls of Morehouse." Once again, Morehouse was challenged to face its problems with its sons, who were not only homosexual, but this time they were open and non-gender conforming. This article sparked not only talk around the United States about Morehouse, but also sparked students into action, both in good and bad ways. In an interview with a past SGA officer, he recalled that SGA's position was to take immediate action to protect the student body. The SGA, in a unanimous vote, voted a new dress code policy into effect, in spite of the fact that Morehouse already had an existing dress policy outlined in the course catalog. The new dress code policy outlined 3 new requirements of dress: no do-rags, no sagging, and no women's clothing, which is what the Mean Girls of Morehouse article from Vibe was about. Over time, the college failed to police those who would wear do-rags or sag their pants. However, a very careful watch was now kept on students who attempted to defy the new rule of feminine clothing. The response sparked a new fire in the members of Safe Space. Soon, Safe Space took on the work of advocacy, protests, seeking heterosexual allies, and hosting Pride Week. This development of Safe Space and its now open visibility would rock the campus of Morehouse College. In its first Pride, Morehouse played host to androgynous media personality B. Scott. Pushing the envelope further, Safe Space Pride Week hosted the first drag show on the campus of Morehouse College during its Pride Week. According to Safe Space leadership, not only was the concept of a Morehouse Pride an act of public affirmation and advocacy, but it was also the spur-of-the-moment idea that took only 3 weeks to pull off from conception to execution. However, Safe Space's troubles weren't soon to be over. Leadership of the organization recalls that Safe Space, since the first Pride, has been watched by particular close eye by campus administration. On January 13, 2013, Morehouse's Safe Space was host to the Atlanta premiere of Friend of Essex, a film documenting experiences in Black queer life. Safe Space leadership recalls redundant phone calls and messages from the administration of the school wanting to know particular details. This was not common practice with other organizations. This inquiring resulted in a prominent member of the administration attending the screening of the film, which also included a discussion afterwards that was very open and affirming for hurt individuals of the Black LGBT community. When the senior administrator was openly asked before a packed-out Bank of America auditorium, which we're sitting in today, his perspective on the evening and lessons he thought that was vital to take away from the film, in the discussion, the administrator declined his opportunity to comment. In spite of this, Safe Space, with the leadership of an open, same-gender-loving student, challenged the curriculum of Morehouse College and successfully advocated for and secured Morehouse's first course on the genealogy and history of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. The course began in the spring semester of 2013 under the leadership of former Morehouse student and Yale professor Dr. Jafari Allen. However, just as Safe Space felt positive impact was being made, an interview on NPR, which is a public radio broadcast station, was conducted with the newly appointed president of Morehouse College, Dr. John S. Wilson. When confronted with the question of LGBT issues on Morehouse's campus, and Morehouse being an institution which is founded in part to offer a safe harbor for minority students, but through the cross-dressing ban seemed to be creating a sense of hostility toward another minority on the campus, Dr. Wilson's response was as follows. So I would say it is a sign of progress. The danger, and I would say the concern that many alumnus had was here you had Morehouse College and you with this great brand, and there was something of concern that was conflicting with the brand, referring to the LGBT students. We want to make it very clear as we move forward that at Morehouse, we produce chemists, we produce biologists, we produce doctors and lawyers, and that is our signal. Everything else, LGBT students, is noise. Members of Safe Space in the same gender-loving community took Dr. Wilson's response in two ways: a warning of what was to come and the confirmation of pervasive homophobia and sexism within the Morehouse family. If this belief proves to be true, it means that there is work still to be done in Morehouse around the full inclusion and fair treatment of its same gender-loving students. Recently, on Tuesday, May 16th, a town hall meeting was held in King Chapel addressing the nature of a true man. The lecture, which was given by guest facilitators, was not only heterosexist in view and excluded those who were same gender loving, but also portrayed those who were of the LGBT community in a bad and pejorative light. Even more bothersome to some students is that currently students have wide access to a number of several cable channels in their dormitory and classroom settings, with the exception of one channel, Logo, a cable station that features programming for the LGBT community. From where we stand, it seems that Morehouse has more work to do to welcome all of her sons in fairness and equity, so that one day, as Morehouse gathers in the circle of brotherhood, the college may truly say, so to bind each son the other into ties more brotherly. In a brief post-disclosure, I excluded names from the interviews that I did. All the interviews that I conducted were on the basis that they would remain anonymous. Thank you.
Want to use mine? All right, good afternoon. I'm Khari Ford. I'm a senior history major here at Morehouse College from Kingsland, Georgia. And I'll be doing my presentation on the history of the ROTC, the early history of the ROTC up to its founding in 1987. So to begin, almost a century ago, the United States Navy realized that the United States Naval Academy could not graduate officers at the rate which the Navy and Marine Corps grew. In order to add more candidates into the training and accessions pipeline, the Navy established the Naval Reserve Officers Training Corps, NROTC program, in 1926, with the first units at UC Berkeley, Georgia Tech, Northwestern University, University of Washington, Harvard, and Yale. In 1932, the Marine Corps also began to place candidates into the program to produce Marine officers. Once the 1960s were in swing, many NROTC programs had already been founded at predominantly white institutions. But again, the Navy realized a shortage in officers into the commissioning force. But this time, observed a shortage in African-American officers that is evident. In order to curtail this new shortfall, the Navy began a streak of program offerings at HBCUs across the country, beginning in 1968 with the activation of Prairie View A&M NROTC unit, making it the first HBCU to independently host such an organization. Soon to follow were Savannah State University, Southern University, and A&M College, and others with founding dates ranging from previously mentioned in 1971 to the latest, a Tuskegee NROTC being founded a few short years ago in 2009. The program of NROTC is still and was offered at numerous HBCUs at crosstown affiliates and previously established units, again, that were previously white institutions. Do we need to switch? Okay. As for the NROTC at Morehouse College, one can begin to gather the history of the program not with its establishment as a freestanding unit in 1987, and not as its move from Morris Brown College to the campus of Morehouse College in 1984. In fact, the history of the midshipmen at Morehouse began in 1980 when Delta Company of the Georgia Tech NROTC was put in place on the campus of Morris Brown College. It was then known as Company D, also Delta Company, of the Georgia Tech Battalion and of the Georgia Tech Institute of Technology. And it was the Morris Brown AUC detachment was formed by Lieutenant Commander Frederick Espy and Master Chief Jeffrey Hutchinson. Together, these two gentlemen were able to establish the name for the NROTC inside the AUC through personal interactions with students and through AUC Digest articles and advertisements offering students of what the program had to offer, in the same fashion the Army ROTC had previously done. The first time the NROTC was published and actually in Morehouse was the 1979-81 Morehouse College course catalog. There was no complete course listing, but there was instruction directed to students of interest to Georgia Tech's course catalog and the staff there. In the same course catalog, the Army ROTC had a full listing of all courses offering and a history of its own program. However, by the time the 1980 school year began, Delta Company was ready to function. Students were able to register at Morris Brown College and take their courses inside the Atlanta University Center without having to travel to Georgia Tech for instruction there. To support this effort, as staff members at Georgia Tech, including the Navy lieutenants, a Navy captain, commander, a Marine major, would travel to and from the AUC in order to instruct the students in their naval science coursework. Midshipmen were offered a curriculum of 10 courses, such as Naval Personnel Administration, Leadership and Management, Evolution of Warfare, and others in order to gain the professional and some technical knowledge required. Students were also required to attend a naval science lab called drill by the midshipmen of the company in order to gain the technical side of training required. Topics of instruction included the use of navigation boards, Marine Corps operational history, small unit leadership, and others in order to give the midshipmen the knowledge necessary to become junior officers in the Navy and Marine Corps that put them on the same level as officers that came out of Naval Academy, West Point, and other service academies. For their commitment to the Navy and Marine Corps, students were given a full payment of their tuition, a stipend for books, all uniforms, a possible room and board scholarship that even to this day still exists, and a $100 a month retainer pay. $100 a month. Upon completion of a course of study, graduates earn a commission to the United States Navy as an ensign or United States Marine Corps as a second lieutenant. Students were offered also numerous ways to be part of the program, such as through scholarship, college program, or simply a naval science student. As scholarship midshipmen, all previously mentioned incentives were also readily available. They were slated to earn their commission at completion of their undergraduate careers, and the scholarship was also available in 2-, 3-, or 4-year birches. Those that took the 2-year route were required to attend the NROTC Prep Institute in Newport, Rhode Island, and then return back to campus with the other midshipmen in their junior class to continue their 2 years of NROTC and their last 2 years of college. The college program students were those interested in the program but who had not yet attained the scholarship to pay for schooling. Those individuals were given uniforms but lacked the other monetary benefits of being a scholarship midshipman. They were in the college program in order to compete for the limited spots of the latter offered 2- or 3-year scholarships. And the last category of students were the naval science students simply enrolled in the courses offered by the program for any number of reasons or interests. So, up until 1984, operations at the NROTC unit at Morris Brown were at full swing. However, things, of course, were not perfect. The facilities that Morris Brown campus offered to the NROTC no longer fulfilled the needs. They had outgrown it in both material and individuals. So from this need for a better location in which to house the program, Master Chief Hutchinson and Commander Espy began to lobby of Morehouse College for a new home for the program. The efforts of the Master Chief and Lieutenant Commander actually proved successful, so much so that the NROTC was given the entirety of Sale Hall to be its new headquarters, much to the dismay of the Army ROTC, which then housed in the annex next door. The only problem now lay in the decrepit state of Sale Hall, which had been a very, very poor state at the time. At the time, the main uses of Sale Hall was its auditorium and a small area which housed its reading and writing tour. In order to make the move, an entire renovation of the building needed to be made. The August of 1984, midshipmen and staff ROTC began this process from top to bottom. They painted walls, fixed tiling, removed old furniture, and even more themselves. Utilizing government vans and a truck acquired by the Master Chief, students loaded up all the gear and equipment from the old building and even took furniture, desks, chairs, tables with them from Morris Brown and placed them inside their new home in Sale Hall. At the time of this transition, Delta Company averaged an enrollment of 125 to 150 midshipmen every year from 1980 to 1984. The program commissioned an average of 5 to 6 commissionees every spring, summer, and winter, as some midshipmen in the program were allowed to graduate early, but course loads often, as we know in the AUC, would hold them an extra semester or two, but would still earn their commission, whether that's spring, summer, or winter, into the Navy or Marine Corps. Something else new that started in Sale Hall was an even developed, more social life for the midshipmen. Midshipmen often hosted movie nights in Sale Hall Auditorium, along with other pageants and shows as well. Midshipmen also hosted regular car washes as fundraisers for such events. As far as professional military socialization, the midshipmen of the unit organized both an active color guard and drill team. The unit's color guard participated in events both on and off the campus of the AUC and a plethora of other events outside of the AUC. The drill team competed in the meets in Savannah State, Auburn, and others, including that hosted by Tulane in the time of Mardi Gras celebration in the yearly Mardi Gras drill meet. The grade level independent activity at the Morehouse unit became increasingly self-sufficient, and numbers were able to sustain themselves above that 100 mark for many years. Every once in a blue moon, as a retired Marine Colonel Antonio Smith put it, the company would find itself mustered at Georgia Tech for a special event, but most operations were kept separate, other than the sharing of a few staff members, such as a Marine officer instructor, assistant Marine officer instructor, a few Navy lieutenants, an executive officer, and a commanding officer, who would still come to Sale in order to teach classes and attend the weekly drill sessions, which were held every single Tuesday from 0900 to 1100. This level of self-sustainment became positive when in 1987, the decision was made by Naval Service Training Command to establish independently the Morehouse College NROTC. The NROTC unit officially stood up independently of the Georgia Tech Battalion in the September of 1987. The unit received its own complete staff to train and perform administrative duties in order to service the midshipmen of the college and the AUC. These staff members included the first professor of naval science, Captain Fisher, United States Navy, first executive officer, Commander Alfred Elder, Marine officer instructor Major Willie Jones, Marine officer instructor Gunnery Sergeant Ford, Yeoman Beck, as well as a chief and 3 other support lieutenants. This establishment was the beginning of over 25 years and ongoing history of the NROTC at Morehouse College. And that is all. Thank you.
My name is Larry Spruill, Dr. Spruill. I am a assistant professor of history, and I teach freshmen primarily. And my topic today is about Morehouse College and the age of Obama. Institutional histories invariably concentrate on origins, founders, funding, buildings, and programs, but ultimately they must focus on the people they serve. The history of Morehouse College, born in 1867, out of the aftermath of a war for the liberation of African people held captive in American slavery for over 200 years, is about the bright hope of quality education and what it would bring to those former slaves as they were released from bondage to pursue freedom in the evolving democratic experiment known as the United States of America. In 1867, the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, was dead. Andrew Johnson was president, and the young, ambitious Republican Party was in power, driving a radical agenda to amend the United States Constitution to include 4 million former slaves as citizens. Morehouse, founded in the early days of the contentious Reconstruction policies, was enabled to is enabled to speak with institutional authority about the long-term commitment to African American men, their education, social development, and national contributions. I am a baby boomer. As an adolescent, during the civil rights era, I was nurtured on obligatory community service, commitment to the struggle for freedom, justice, and equality, and most of all, to be ever vigilant in watching the horizon for another Marcus, Medgar, Malcolm, and Martin. I never saw the coming of Barack Hussein Obama until he was unavoidably staring me in the face. I know so many who have said they knew from the beginning of his 2007 candidacy that he was going to be the 44th President of the United States. I did not. I was not asleep. My eyes were open, but I could not see the Obama starship on the horizon rapidly moving toward me. I am not ashamed to say many of my Morehouse students saw it and believed what they saw long before I did. The last decade leading up to the 2017 150th anniversary of the founding of Morehouse College is uniquely aligned with the rise and conclusion of the conquest and successful campaign of Barack Hussein Obama's historic election and re-election to the presidency and commander-in-chiefship of the United States of America, the most powerful and wealthy nation in the world. This was a stunning achievement, given his African heritage and his limited experience in elected politics. In 2007-2008, young men at Morehouse College embraced his fresh vision, hopeful message, and his sense of optimism that he could be and would be the 44th United States President. How do we record and historicize Morehouse students' support, participation, and embrace of Obamaism in this project's 2017 history of the college? How do we record this? In many respects, the national historical and political lens of the college's institutional history begins with the 1 million dead and wounded Americans sacrificed in the Civil War to liberate African Americans, and will close with the end of the second term of the Obama presidency and the inauguration of a new commander-in-chief in January 2017. The framing and narration of 2007 to 2017, the last decade before publication of this important history, is inextricably intertwined with the age of Obama. This is especially true given the 2013 selection of Dr. Wilson as Morehouse president and the critical importance of his work in the Obama administration representing the needs and experiences of historical black colleges and universities. Morehouse is a national magnet of black male students. On November 4, 2008, my Morehouse students kept a journal in real time about the Obama phenomena and the possibility of America's first African-American president. I won't say that I was a prophet, that I saw all this coming. I wasn't, but I knew it was an important time. They wrote about the campus environment, student attitudes and anxieties throughout the evening of election night. They recorded the mood swings with every election night return and announcements. They were experiencing the most unique political event in one of the most subjective environments, Morehouse College. There are a total of 210 diary entries, including 61 from the 2008 election, 57 entries from the 2009 inauguration, and 92 from the 2012 election night. Their diaries entries required their names and hometowns. I've kept them all. I'm a historian. I just keep stuff. They are now important primary sources in the construction of historical perspectives of black men entering into new millennium American politics, community life, and even national leadership. The inspiration and hopefulness that they acquired from the rise of the obscure senator from Illinois and his African-American family to the heights of political power must somehow find its way into the narrative of this definitive history of Morehouse College. President Obama's commencement speech in May will surely make its way into the publication. The voice and recollections of our students should also be included. We may have felt slighted in May 2010 when the newly elected President Obama selected Hampton Institute to deliver his first HBCU commencement address. There were many also frustrated in 2012 when, in the midst of the president's re-election campaign, First Lady Michelle Obama gave the Spelman commencement address. How sweet it is in January 2013 to hear the national announcement that President Obama, basking in his stunning November 2012 election to a second term, was finally coming to Morehouse College on May 19th, 2013, to deliver the commencement address to our pending Morehouse men and their families. This address will be a landmark experience in the decade leading up to the 2017 150th anniversary celebration. Chronicling Morehouse student and institutional activities in the age of Obama is the work of historians. I chose to document our youngest students' response to the Obama candidacy, 2 election nights, and the 2009 inauguration experience. Those 2008 students graduated in 2012. They're gone. Those 2012 students will graduate in 2016. We have 2 graduating classes aligned with the age of Obama and his presidency. Their innocence, useful participation has borne fruit here at Morehouse and I'm sure in their local communities. There was something noble about standing online for hours in 2008 and 2012, not to purchase a popular smartphone or digital product, but to go into a curtain booth to touch a screen to cast a historic vote for Barack Hussein Obama. I've been voting for over 4 decades, but my freshmen were casting the first votes of their lives. Some were still too young to vote. For them, it was like a surreal registration for authentic American citizenship. November 4, 2008, left me, a great-grandson of slaves, feeling what they might have felt about their freedom from slavery. What was freedom going to be like in post-Civil War America? Surely it was the freedom to move from the darkness of plantations, but into what? As Professor November 4, 2008, I had stirred mixed emotions. Obama's victory was a new day with new possibilities. What would life be like under a black president? I knew that my students were anxious. Was this really happening in their lifetime, my lifetime? On January 20, 2009, the surging Obama movement was certified at his inauguration. Hundreds of Morehouse students stood in the wicked cold in Washington, D.C. to weather cold weather to witness the inauguration. Many watched on television. There was great celebration among my Morehouse students. They not only witnessed a great historical moment, but they participated in it as well. This was a defining moment of their lives, their generation. They would never forget the opening of the Age of Obama while a freshman at Morehouse College. While my students openly rejoiced about the Age of Obama, I wondered if they were also thinking about what life was going to be like in a post-George Bush America. Here are some of the examples or samples of their thoughts from their journals, 2008, 2009, and 2012. Thank God for Morehouse College, a place where African American males come to defy stereotypes. Tonight was a long-awaited evening. Just being able to see a black man arise on stage, humble, but yet commanding, stern, yet of the people, was truly remarkable. It was a positive view of the African American community, which displayed stability. A family-oriented man, head of the household, without a negative shadow. He represented reform, a man who was not afraid to defy preset laws, a man willing to not conform, but most importantly, a man who was trying to revolutionize the country for the better and help the lower classes. Here was a man who followed a dream to change the world. Vaughn, Cincinnati, Ohio, November 4, 2008. I haven't been able to type all of them, but I have some. I'll try to read them in their handwriting. It says, this most pertinent point in understanding the significance of electing Barack Obama president is the concept of shattering stereotypes and expanding limits. Barack Obama seems by nature contrary to the common black stereotype. He is articulate, well-educated, married, empathetic, sensitive, and a father. Attributes not commonly portrayed by black males represented in the media. His election forces the confrontation of those stereotypes by both whites and blacks. Black people are provided with a new model of behavior, of experiences, of success. Black males especially will benefit, seeing ourselves reflected in our televisions, what we could potentially become with just a slight bit more effort or education does more to challenge and motivate us to succeed more than any call to action from parents, educators, or other leaders. A black man operating in the highest office in the land expands limits beyond what even some of the most ambitious leaders thought possible. I challenge stereotypes and underlying racist assumptions of inferiority. It challenges blacks to rebuke the former behavior roles experienced in favor of an Obama-like model. Finally, it challenges the world, those countries with citizens of the African diaspora, African countries themselves, and any heterogeneous country with ethnic divide to bring themselves fully into the new 21st century way of thought and to step up to the example America has set, specifically the example of what they've done with their American black. Jarrell is his name, Frederick, Maryland. Here's one. It says, Dear Granddaddy, I barely got my absentee ballot mailed in time, enough for my vote to count. On election day, I felt normal. Nothing out of the ordinary presented itself. I didn't even notice the vote that evening I didn't even notice the votes when it hit 270. I heard roofs and cheers coming from outside my room. I opened the door to screams, "We did it, we did it," and I began to do the same. As I stormed out of the dorm, I began to hear the Morehouse bells chiming in the distance. With all the chaos, the bells slowed everything down and put me in a state of peace, like all was all right. I thought about you and how long you have struggled and been turned down in order to get to this moment. I thought about how you didn't think you would live to see the day where a black man ran the country. A sense of pride and validation flowed through me from the tips of my toes to the top of my head. Here's an interesting one. By the way, that was Michael from Houston, Texas. I realize this is real. Not only do we have a black president, but we have a black president who knows what he's doing. All I think about was my friend, who could finally stop worrying about his girlfriend, that she is really coming back to him from Iraq. I hope if anyone reads this, I hope most of all, if anyone reads this letter, will look back on this momentous day and smile as I did. We are here, my friends. Our time is now. Let us make the most of it. Those are all from 2004. Let's see if I can find a few from 2008. The re-election. This made me feel as though I was a part of history that could never happen again. I didn't feel as involved in the election as other students because I didn't get to vote. I was upset because I didn't get to vote because my birthday was a month too late. I will never forget this moment because I was around a bunch of young black people who were involved in politics. This is something that I think America doesn't believe to be true. I could never forget this night. William from Washington, D.C., that's in 2012. I could not be more proud to call myself an American. I feel blessed to be a part of history. This paradigm shift in the nature of this country. This is Scott from Chicago, Illinois. But it just goes on, and the range of thought and ideas and feeling, they're really rich. And this project is much larger than I thought it was. And I'm not really too prepared today. I didn't prepare a paper, but I realized that these authentic voices must make their way into the definitive history of Morehouse College. What were Morehouse students thinking in '08? What did they do? Did they participate? I have journal entries here about going to Ohio, working in Cleveland, canvassing the poorest communities, being in tears in what they saw in Cleveland, and why people said they couldn't go vote because they were just overwhelmed with living. There were those who went to Florida in 2012 to canvass in Florida and what they saw. And election night, the euphoria, the excitement about being elected twice. There was this one student who said, President Obama once could be an accident. Twice is on purpose. That's Tayo from Mableton, Georgia. So I have all of this raw material, and as you know, the work of historians is about documents, 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 documents. I got a bunch of them. I would like probably to see if I can get a student project, because this is a little overwhelming for me, who would like to write this history about what students were thinking during the age of Obama. January 2013, we got a new president. He comes out of the Obama administration. On May 19th, he will be here. And when he's finished with his term, January 2017, it will be the end of the age of Obama. Morehouse, its students, our college have been intimately involved in this great historic moment. Maybe we can get some volunteers, Dr. Bonksdale, but I got them all. Thank you so much.
We certainly want to thank our panelists for their very fine presentations. Three different, really very different presentations, but all very fine. One on black homosexuality in Morehouse, the other one on the military and the NROTC in Morehouse, and the one on election politics in Morehouse students. I think, Dr. Spruill, you might want to do that. It's well known, as I said in one of the previous sessions, that there will be an anthology of pieces that we will publish collectively. And we do need one on Morehouse students' involvement in election politics. And that's something that goes back to when there was no possibility, at least even thinking of a black candidate. As you brought your presentation to an end, I thought, well, in 2017, we'll be inaugurating our next president, save for Hillary, perhaps. We don't know what candidate will run from the Republican Party. But we are hoping that the next president will be a Morehouse graduate. Now, it's well known that Obama's will get an honorary degree from this year. On the 19th, is it, or is it the 19th? He will become a Morehouse man, how should I say, by default, but he will get it. It will be accorded all of the rights, privileges, and responsibilities appertaining thereto on that day, and will become a Morehouse man, and we're going to use that and milk it till we can't milk it anymore. But we're talking about one who has graduated from the college, and certainly, I don't think we've seen the end of African Americans as president of the United States. Before we go to questions, comments, and the like, I was thinking about three people that I have in my mind on my radar screen, in my crosshairs, as I often say, that are likely future candidates of the United States, for president of the United States. And of course, we have Deval Patrick, I've read that name. Cory Booker has been talked about more than any other. And of course, people are now talking about Kasim Reed of Atlanta. So, and there may be others. I think Mr. Simpkins would agree with me that perhaps a millennium will have come when we get the first homosexual out of the homosexual president of the United States. I'm going to say we get the first one was, but you know, so but that would come a millennium coming, you know, right? At any rate, we want to thank them for their fine presentations. We have had military leaders as presidents of the United States in the past. I think the last one was Eisenhower as a general. He had been president of Colombia, I believe. But at any rate, he was the president of the United States. Others have been fine. Questions, answers, comments, and the like. Audience. Yes.
Question for Mr. Khari. Being a child of the chaotic Bush years, what inspired you to join the military?
My mother brainwashed me. No, I figured that.
When I see you,
you know, you figure that the military, all the bad press and all the things that go on at the military, I figured that there should be those enlightened black individuals in the military, and why not come to Morehouse and be that one? That's why.
did you get any of that school? Did you get any of your comments about?
Well, I think by 2012 there was some of it. But if you, in 2008, it was really such a phenomenon. No one could even imagine that this would happen so quickly. It was here. So I think that some of the responses you could hear, is he black enough kind of thing. You know, you know. Is he really going to advocate for African American communities? But they were tempered, you know, because to some degree I was glad, because you know we know how to do the whole cannibal thing. We know how to do that real well. So there was, I could read in between the lines that there was kind of, they didn't do it.
I know some of my friends who are Republicans vote for Mr. At least that's what they told me. I wasn't in the booth with them. So that's what they did, but the remaining members of the Republican Party. Mr. Stevens.
My question is for Mr. Simpkins. What would a affirming Morehouse look like, and what practical, and you can divide practical, however you see fit, steps that the administration could take to get to that idea of a affirming Morehouse?
Okay, I caught the second part, because the question was, what do I think are practical steps?
What would a
No, what does a affirming Morehouse look like?
What would it look like?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I won't say what just came across my mind. Y'all know I can be kind of blunt. Well, I think that, I believe, rather should I say, that an affirming Morehouse would look, I don't know if it would have a look to it. I will say this. I think that the barriers that exist between students would not be there. An affirming Morehouse would not look like certain person, would not look like Dr. Bynum at the premiere of Friends of Essex refusing to give commentary on behalf of the college. For those of you who were not in that atmosphere, it was a lot of emotion going on and healing of young black men that had been hurt as a result of their experience of being black and LGBT. Yeah. And what an affirming Morehouse looks like is a faculty that's not afraid to approach the issues, that's not afraid to address them. And we don't, let me just say this, I know we're talking about particularly homosexuality, but I also want to relate that to the same context of how we view and treat our sisters across the street in terms of rape, right? So in affirming Morehouse, it's not only where the administration is not afraid to tackle the issues, but to address them openly, to say that this is not okay. We do affirm these people in this space, and that, you know, because this person happens to look a certain way, we don't reject them. It's a welcome thing. It's not something that we're afraid of or afraid to approach because we don't want nobody to give us no check. Yeah. But that's just my opinion.
Next question, comment? Okay.
Mine is about Spruill. We all saw how the nation reacted to an African American president that was a Democrat, and we all know the projection or the stereotypes that we have about both parties. How do you think the country will react to like a Herman Cain, an African American who was a Republican president, may not have some of these same liberal or rather approaches to candidates and presidents?
You know, I have a very close friend with my dear and wonderful Republican students on campus. You know, so, but I did go to the Herman Cain lecture the other night. I was there. And I am a lifelong Democrat, by the way. And my good friend, he's here today, he said, "We have faculty at Dr. Spruill, will you please stand?" I said, no, I'm just kidding. But I know that when it's about the policies more than anything. You know, what are Herman Cain's policies? What does he believe? I was telling my friends, I said, I enjoyed Herman Cain. He was good. I didn't agree with anything he said. But he was good. And one of the things he said, that which I knew that he was ahistorical. He said, I don't believe in sort of promoting black programs, a black program agenda, because what's good for America is good for black people. I said, hello, where you been? So I just know that, they're really, it's about their policies. So if there is a black Republican, like Rand Paul going to Howard University and lecturing those folks that how Howard, did you know that Frederick Douglass was a Republican? Well, yes, you've got some nerve. This is Howard University. You're going to try to teach them about black republicanism? Right. We know it's the party of liberation. We know it's the party of Lincoln. We know the history. So it's about policies. It's about what, if a black Republican has the right policies, I won't say I wouldn't vote for it.
We have to allow it to change. See, that's the thing that they often forget when they got a reference to Lincoln and that era. You can say more Sumner and that is that's why I voted too much Lincoln. We know his policies are adverse. But the bottom line is we have to allow it to change. I'm reminded of what Dr. Jocelyn Jackson used to teach in Jocelyn Wilson taught in her hip-hop class, that we very often don't allow hip-hop artists to grow. We still want to see Jay-Z somewhere back when he was in his 20s. But Jay-Z has grown. And certainly his T.I., Lil Wayne, I think he's still trying to act like he's 18. That's so important. But we have to understand that people mature and grow. I'm in mine, 3 and 10? And this is not the same Barksdale when he was 1 and 10. This is a different Barksdale. And very often, people who know me and knew me back when think I can still do it. I walk in with a cane and not embarrassed at all. Almost hurt. I'm older now. But the bottom line is, when you look at history, and you're absolutely right, we have to notice, see change. And there may come a time, Dr. Spruill, I'm going to lecture you, we may go back. Full circle.
That's right.
We may be back in the bosom of the Republican Party. Things may change. The Republican Party, as you all may know, was not always the party of the South. No, that was the Dixiecrats and the Democrats. Or the Democrats and the Dixiecrats. And now we are all lovey-dovey, what was the next question?
Brian Brown, class of 1998.
Oh, wow.
Familiar with a lot of the intrigues and other things that you talked about, although I actually live off campus, and that's a separate part of my life at the time. I'm wondering if you could comment on the state of LGBT activism and its linkages to the broader LGBT movement in the country. In particular, it's interesting that when we talk about Obama and we talk about some of the changes he's made with respect to his administration, striking down on Don't Ask, Don't Tell, impacts the military. But also, he ran a very social media-oriented campaign. Social media has become a vehicle, as you know, for activism. And I'm wondering, with respect to this current state of LGBT activism on the campus, do you use social media to connect to other interest groups, gay organizations, gay rights groups, to further your voice with respect to the ideals of sexuality and black sexuality here on campus, but also at other historically black college universities?
Right. Well, I do know that our organization, Safe Space, which coincidentally, Marcus, wave your hand. He is, Mr. Marcus Lee is actually one of our more prominent figures of the LGBT community here on Morehouse's campus. And they have worked in collaborative efforts with several organizations, HRC, the Friend of Essex was also something that they got together with Amir Dixon in premiering his film Friend of Essex. There is a use of social media. I do know their media personnel, Jamal, utilizes Twitter, Facebook. They just ended Pride Week, and I served on one of those panels as well. So there is a connection with Morehouse, Morehouse LGBT community safe space with the larger United States. The problem is what's coming is that the country is connecting the safe space, but the school is not connecting the safe space. And that's a problem. But to answer your question directly, as far as safe space, they do work with national organizations and even some local organizations to achieve different advocacy things here within Morehouse.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah,
go ahead. You know, as an alumnus now, considering the commitments to the college, do you have a message, you know, to the alumni, or give messages to the alumni about what you think they can do for those who are interested in advancing and helping LGBT students create a larger safe space? Would you tell them that? Well, what would you tell them in terms of to influence them with respect to advocacy on the part of LGBT students here?
There's a couple of things that I would recommend to alumni. The first thing is to come on campus and connect with the existing student body that is here, because they're very visible on campus. Safe space is very visible. It's not hard to track down somebody if you say, hey, who's in safe space? You'll be able to find somebody very quickly. I think the next part that alumni could do is start an alumni chapter of open and affirming brothers that say, this was our experience and this is, what we want to see done in the college. Alum do have a voice in this school. Alum is part of the reason why we, in my opinion, why certain things still exist in the school. So I think if a group of brothers that were affirming, whether they be same gender loving or hetero, come together and say, this group of students needs this and this is what we want, or we will withhold funds to do this or whatever, third or the other, I think that would be most helpful because we do need that voice and we do need that example that, hey, you can make it outside of Morehouse College. But I think on the front end of that, if you say those brothers have to feel very comfortable within themselves. A lot of the interviews, like I said, that I did in this particular presentation were done with the agreement that they would be said anonymously from those Morehouse men that talk about their experiences in the 80s and the 90s, which basically says to me that you're long gone from Morehouse, but you still don't want it heard in this space that you were that guy, which is a problem. So that's my answer.
Young.
I have a question for you, and I guess I'm trying to get an understanding. I don't live on campus. Yes.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Give me your name again.
Antwann.
Antwann.
Yes.
Thanks, Antwann. I'm trying to get an understanding here. So, Morehouse doesn't allow, women in the dorms, or I don't know how the living arrangements.
Oh, no, they're not in the dorms.
They're allowed in the dorms?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
So is there, because Morehouse is established as what Morehouse is, right? The president was to say Morehouse. So is the fight then, because I'm trying to find out, is the fight like me as a black person saying the Klan's got to be able to open up to black people being in there? What is the fight? Are homosexuals targeted at Morehouse? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not asserting that homosexuals are targeted at Morehouse, although there are plenty of cases. What I'm saying, this is a part of...
I'm offended. I'm just asking.
Oh, no, I'm not offended. This is how I talk. Okay. You're fine, trust me. I'm just very confident. I'm not a low-key brother. But what I am saying that needs to be addressed, or what is being fought for, this is part of that hidden article that went missing that I didn't read, and I'll just read this one sentence. It says, before the meeting, and this is before SJ took the vote, before the meeting, a group of students rallied outside Kilgore Center, venue for the meeting, protesting the charter with the chance of, hell no, gays gotta go and fight the faggots. That's an issue. What I'm saying is that in this space that we call Morehouse College, that is a brotherhood, what we need to do is open up ourselves just to equal playing field. I'm not asking for, I myself am SGL. I'm not asking for a leg up on anybody in this room. I think that I'm as capable just like the next man. But what I am asking for is that you look at me as your brother. It shouldn't be that, you know, because he may say, yes, girl, work, that offends your masculinity. We're not in the same bed. So what Morehouse has to do is it has to get to a place to where not only administration is comfortable with gay students, and there are some in administration that are certainly SGL that are not willing to talk openly and fight for SGL students, but they need to be, administration needs to be willing to talk openly about these issues so that the student body doesn't have this type of impact and effect going on. Even with the recent LGBT course that was going on, there was a number of students that were offended. Why is that here? What's going on? And that's scholarship. This is a place of scholarship, and it's a place of brotherhood. And so that's what we're fighting for, equal grounding. No problem.
Any other comments and questions? Oh, yes.
Yes, I had a question for Dr. Spruill.
Yes.
Dr. Spruill, in your, I know as you communicated with the students and they were communicating back, many of them were first-time voters in 2004. Many of them probably thought that the organizing effort, because if they've never voted before, they probably thought the utilizing of social media and, of course, all the different hot spots where you can actually go to a home and meet with other people who were supporting Barack Obama and communicate with other people. I mean, the extensive work of what President Obama did in terms of the organizing effort had never been done in the history of American politics. Did any of your students talk about that who were second-time voters or the first-time voters? What did they talk about and express in terms of that phenomenon that has actually changed the way the political system actually runs? And even in the second part of it, even the aspect of the dollars, the fundraising from, you know, people who were from the low realm actually making donations that snowballed into this big effect in terms of that 2004 election.
I didn't get any of that kind of information. In terms of social media, the social media aspect in their diaries was mainly around celebratory.
Okay.
You know, they were, you know, when my phone blew up with, you know, texts and, you know, and everybody was crying. And, but also, you know what was fascinating? I found that that on the night of the election, they reached back home. They called their mamas and daddies. And they were, you know, my mother was crying, and I was crying, and, you know, I never heard my dad cry before, but he was crying on the phone. All this kind of, you know, but the family connection piece was really startling to me. Because, and then one gentleman talked about, you know, my grandfather who was in the hospital in LA, and he voted from a hospital bed. You know, all that, it's just really, but I was just so impressed. It wasn't just about me, 18 years old, young and vibrant. They were reaching home on those nights. And a lot of it came through texting and, you know, and Facebook stuff, and but actual literal phone calls. But I didn't get that whole Obama model of using, I didn't get a lot of that.
Just one follow-up, Professor Spruill. I find your characterization of Herman Cain not being willing to advocate for race-specific policies disingenuous. The current president, if you will, has not made any major black cabinet appointments in the second term, and his surrogates, through his surrogates, they will tell you he's not the president of black America, so therefore he's not willing to advocate for black-specific policies to remedy black-white inequality. So that's disingenuous. This president has no commitment to race-specific policies either. He's no different from Herman Cain in that regard. He doesn't see himself as president of black America. So how's that different from Herman Cain? That's disingenuous. To suggest that Obama is somehow superior to Cain. Because he was, I mean, suggest that somehow Obama is superior to Cain, they're the same. Neither Cain nor Obama are willing to engage in race-specific, black-specific policy to remedy historic black-white inequality. So you're being disingenuous to...
Well, not at all. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. It's not even a question of being disingenuous. It's a question of, I know for a fact.
What has this president done for black America?
I'm going to take Obamacare as one. That's serious stuff. Medical, you know, why should Dick Cheney get 7 heart transplants, and because I'm poor, I can't get one?
But that's not a black health care policy, that's an American policy. Like Kate, it's good for America. Obamacare is good for America.
No, he doesn't believe Obamacare is good for America.
No, I'm saying Obamacare.
He's a repealist.
No, my point is, Obamacare is not a race-specific policy.
Listen, it's about people who are poor and black. That is, you know, that's all I can tell you, brother, is that I know that right now, without a healthcare agenda, you know, for me, that was a big piece. And it cost them a lot as well. It cost them. And I know that the Republican Party, you know, is basically about the private sector and about trying to get ways to get more money into their plant. We needed healthcare. Black people are the most unhealthy people in this country. You know that.
No, I don't know that.
Oh yeah, you better know that, because look at, you know what? Look, I'll tell you this. Right now, if you're young, black, male, right, or female, you can be sure that without some extraordinary efforts, you're going to have premature death, prison, premature pregnancy, all right? You know, and the number one problem in the black community is mental health. Mental health. That's the number one problem in our community.
Well, this has been a good ending. We have one final comment, and that's from Ms. Smith, but it's been a very good ending. And I think sometimes this is what we want, good, strong, robust dialogue. We don't all agree on things. And I think sometimes we can move beyond the public arena and have a more personal dialogue. I'm gonna get to him. And I think this is good. And I would encourage the two professors to do just that. I'd like to be privy to some of it. That's kind of step aside, but I understand. I do understand both sides. I understand what you're saying.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah. Mr. Smith?
My question is for Khari.
Yes, ma'am.
I meet a lot of students on campus that are part of ROTC, and I ask them the concept of being in the military. My question to you is, do they have a program where they discuss things like post-traumatic stress syndrome from being part of the military organization, or just the realization of being in the military? Because a lot of the students that are in ROTC, I don't see that they understand the reality of commitment.
That's actually a good question. I would like to say, just being in the program now, I think one of the problems about PTSD is that not only what it does to your mind actually physically, is it's an emotional thing where you get separated away from society. So even now, with the way we live now, we're already separate from normal students. You know, my last summer, I spent 6 weeks with a bunch of crazy, not look like me Marines, you know, and then I come back here, and it's nice to be with my people, but a lot of people don't understand what we go through. So it starts there, and then it turns into what happens when you go into combat. So if your question is to answer, no, at this level of what we have to go through and what we enter upon, it really is just dependent on how much we as a program can get ourselves out there to talk to those people that have been there before. Like now, our ROTC alumni are those people we go to. In order to do my research, a lot of it was oral history. A lot of it I had to make phone calls and ask questions. They would send me to the right place to go to get all my facts, and that's what it was. So those are the type of individuals that let us know the black side of it, as well as the pure military, mental, physical degradation that you have to go through. Those are the people that are helping best. The ones that came from here, Morris, Brown, Spelman, Morehouse, and Clark, all of those are the best people for us to go to, especially.
Dr. Sullivan alluded to it in his fine presentation about the presence of veterans on the campus in the early 50s, late 40s and early 50s, as a matter of fact. And I have this wonderful picture. I think I got it in the Mays papers, or it may have been at the Rockefeller Archive, but it's a picture that was taken in front of Harkness Hall when that was the Morehouse administration with Atlanta University. And it's well over 300 veterans. who were assembled to take a group picture who were at Morehouse at that time. Many of them were coming to college on the GI Bill, and many of them went on to be very prominent Morehouse alums. Mr. Ford is working on that, and he's going to graduate in May. But we hope he will continue that work and will have a paper ready for the anthology when it's published. Suffice it to say, I wonder, Mr. Ford, if you have any evidence in your tertiary research today, whether there were veterans who demanded or requested or petitioned to have ROTC at Morehouse. We didn't always have it. I remember ROTC being here when I was but did veterans of the college play any role in that?
From what I found, it wasn't anything specific from the veterans. I don't know too much about the Army program, so that's something that will take some other coursework for myself. Mostly I'm still in the Navy. And I was actually pushed just directly from the Navy and from Master Chief Jeff Hutchinson. If you've been here before 2009, you more than likely know him, especially if you were a student, you see him. That was a lot of his efforts, and Commander Esme, who's a relative of President Wilson's wife as well. So those two individuals really pushed to have that here, trying to get African American officers into the Navy because they realized that there weren't enough of us in the Navy.
The catering staff said that's sort of setting up our reception to begin shortly. Give them another minute or two and they will be ready for us. We are going to let you go in just a minute. Before we get your question, Mr. Jones, Pastor Jones, let me say to you that this has been a very fine conference. It exceeded my expectations, actually. I was worried because of the bad weather that was pending. We were told in the weather reports that we were going to have major thunderstorms. Maybe it was out my way, but we didn't have that here. We did have rain. But I am very pleased that you did come, particularly the students. It was really kind of focused on the students, then faculty and staff, the rest of it. But we really want the students to be the beneficiaries of the event as well. Also, let me say that we will do this, as I said, at the opening session for the next 5 years, culminating in 2017, and it will be a huge event. Very well. We invite you to submit technically. Many of you, I think all of you, in this room will be graduates from college. But we will accept ideas for papers. We will accept abstracts. We will accept papers from you. So we will be looking toward that. But we will need to get those papers and abstracts by 2015 or later than 2015. We have to go to the presses. So we can't wait for 2017. Too late. So if we have an idea of something that you might want to write on, we do have the guidelines that we can disseminate. Mr. Bailey, raise your hand so that they can see you. He is the administrative assistant to the project as of now, and he can get that information to you. In the back of the program, our contacts, so you can let us know what you're interested in doing in detail. There are guidelines for submission. Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I was going to say to the young man in the ROTC program, especially while President Obama is in office, it does seem like there's a vacuum there somewhere. But since he's been in office, they have the VRAP, the re-entry program for veterans trying to go back to school. The government gives you money. There's a huge defense budget. I think Morehouse could probably try to figure out ways to tap into some of that educational budget. And maybe you yourself in a few years may have an office on this campus that's related to the Department of Veterans Affairs that would, because I'm a veteran, and I'm actually in 2 colleges at this time, and one of them is paid for solely by the military. And that would help to bring awareness for the soldiers. Also, I have to say thank you to those who served in our military, as I did before, because just like the bombing in Boston that just happened, I mean, you'll have 5 U.S. soldiers decapitated in a roadside bomb in a week, and you won't hear a thing about it in the media. And then all of a sudden something happens in Boston to a few white folks, and then you hear all about it. It's mainly a lot of blacks on the front line in the Army and so forth and so on, so we don't hear about a lot of this stuff. But they're still veterans, and we have to support our troops and understand that every life is important, so we should still have the same media attention to that. I thank you because you're in the Marines, going in a Marines harm's way. I thank you for your service, but I also say look for some of that government money to see how you can probably funnel some of that here to Morehouse, because we're always seeking funding.
All right. It's been a long day, and I thank you for your presence. Students, when we get your forms before you leave, we have a moment or two for you to freshen up for the reception. So, it might be open to the